Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing in the parking lot of the Bethlehem Church of God in Christ in Fort Worth, Texas. This is the District 33, where Representative Mark Vesey has represented for a few years. But as we know, the Texas legislature recently passed a new voting map. And if that map stands, and I question whether it will stand or not, because as I speak, that map is being challenged in court. There's a trial right now that's going on in El Paso. But if that map stands, this will no longer be a part of Mark Vesey's district. And that's just a shame. He's been representing this district for quite some time. He's from this district. But all of this is a part of what Trump is trying to do to hold on to power, despite whatever happens with the November 2026 midterms, right? So they're trying to increase the number of GOP representatives, even if the Democrats turn out big time and win the votes. Hey, family, do you believe in the work we're doing? Does our content speak to you? Do you appreciate our in-depth legal analysis and political commentary from an African-American perspective? Do you believe it matters to our community? Then don't just watch from the sidelines. Please click that membership button and become a member of the 2% Club today. That's right, we need just 2% of our subscribers to become channel members. For just $4.99 a month, that's less than 20 cents a day, you'll help us keep creating powerful content that defends our democracy, demands justice, and develops a strong African-American community. But if you want more, at $9.99 a month, which is only 33 cents a day, you'll get access to exclusive members-only live streams, bonus content, and behind-the-scenes updates. And for just $14.99 a month, which is under 50 cents a day, our top-tier members get access to live Zoom calls, strategy sessions, and a direct voice in shaping this movement. We're not just building a YouTube channel. Folks, we're building a movement based on righteousness and justice, just what our community needs in a time of disinformation and division. So if you believe in what we're doing, click the membership button and join now. Become a member of the 2% Club today. Let's build something powerful together. If Trump can pull this off, and he's pressuring states across the country to do so with the help of MAGA, with the help of the GOP, with the help of Mike Johnson, then they will be able to basically, through gamesmanship, potentially control power of the Congress, at least the House, until 2028. Well, we're working to try to stop that. And that's a part of the reason why I'm out here now doing this, that is reporting on this and keeping this in the minds of people. This is so very, very, very important. Now, also think about the fact that the United States Supreme Court yesterday started a new term, and one of the cases that they're going to be hearing is the case having to do with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And it's Section 2 that we typically litigate voting cases having to do with gerrymandering, okay? So Clarence Thomas has been on this journey to try to get Section 2 gutted so that racial gerrymandering can continue, all right? And if he's successful, he's not been able to get it done, but there's a good chance that he'll get it done during this term. And I've been asking you all to use hashtag Save Section 2 in your social media post. All right, Save Section 2. We're trying to save it from Clarence Thomas, who's trying to gut it. And let me tell you this, if they're able to gut Section 2, if they're able to eliminate Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, that's really going to seriously impair the Voting Rights Act from being used in any of these voting cases, because they've already gutted Section 5, which required pre-clearance. And so if they're able to also now eliminate Section 2, which has to do with racial gerrymandering, they would have essentially cut both legs out from under the Voting Rights Act. So we got to be diligent, not only in terms of voting, but in terms of protecting our right to vote and protecting the strength of our vote. So the right to vote, that's Section 5, which prohibits states from, or used to prohibit states from disenfranchising us. Well, the actual strength of our vote, that's Section 2, okay? And that's why I'm saying we got to, fight to keep it. Again, use Save Section 2 in your social media post. And I'm asking you to do that because if we can save Section 2, then perhaps we can prevent a lot of the racial gerrymandering that takes place across this country. Now, what Texas did, they're arguing, was not racial gerrymandering. It was political gerrymandering. But since it has targeted black voting districts, no, this is racial gerrymandering, okay? But if Thomas can get rid of Section 2, this kind of thing will be hard to fight in the future. So we got two things going on at one time. We got Trump pressuring states to do some gerrymandering, and so that he can keep power over the House. And Clarence Thomas is trying to get rid of the last really important section of the Voting Rights Act. So we got to keep our minds on both. We got to fight for both. They are very, very, very important. All right. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this racial gerrymandering, is what I call it, that Texas has done here that may take this part of Fort Worth away from Mark Vice. I'm going to talk about it in another section of this video that's coming up. I just wanted to come out here and talk about this community and look at this community and let you get also some, get familiar with this great community that Mark Vice has been representing now for some time. If they get their map passed and get it through the court, then Mark Vice will lose this, and his district will be packed alongside of Representative Jasmine Crockett. And that's what these racial gerrymandering situations, that's what they do. They pack and crack black voting districts. In this case, they are cracking Mark Vice's District 33 and then packing it with Jasmine Crockett. Folks, we got to fight this. But in order to fight it, you need to be informed. And that's why I'm doing this video. So stay here for part 2 of this video. I'm out. All right, folks, so I'm back in the studio. Thank you for sticking with me and hanging out with me as I continue to talk a little bit more about this Texas showdown that has transferred from the Texas State House to the courts. All right, so a 3-judge panel is deciding whether or not what the Texas legislature did in their redistricting map, whether or not it's going to stand. And just let me say, we got to win this. We got to win this battle. Otherwise, Trump gets 5 additional seats, up to 5 additional seats. And with their razor-thin margin in the House, they need those 5 additional seats. All right? And he's trying to do this, as I said, outside the church there. He's trying to do this in other states. So we got to win this. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Otherwise, we're going to see the rest of Project 2025 implemented in our country. And it's already been bad. Think of another year of this, and then another 2 years after that. All right, so we got to win this. So let's read a short article from the Texas Tribune that sort of lays out where we are right now. All right, so let's go to another screen. And here we go. Now, look at the screen opposite of me here, and I got in a red circle there, expert, race used to create map. So the plaintiffs in their case in chief, that is, when they put forth their case, they had an expert to say that the redistricting was based on race. Now, Texas disagreed. All right, the Republicans in the Texas Capitol, they disagreed. And they tried to sell us a bunch of you know what, okay? That it was based purely on partisanship. It was not. The expert said that it was based on race, and we see the results of that. The results are that Jasmine Crockett's district was somewhat combined now with Mark Vesey's district. That's what we call packing. They have packed those districts together. They have packed the black people in those districts together so that their vote, the power of their vote, is diminished or diluted. So that's big. All right, let's read some more of this. All right, so it goes on to say a data science expert said Monday there was strong evidence lawmakers considered race when drawing Texas's new congressional map intended to net Republicans up to 5 seats in Congress. Moon Dutchin, a mathematician and data expert on redistricting issues, said the result of the 2025 map was the dilution of minority voting strength in key areas of the state, including Dallas and its suburbs. Dallas being Jasmine Crockett's district and Fort Worth. All right. To quote him, he says, there is strong evidence that race was used in the creation of this map. Close quote, Dutchin testified during a federal hearing. Why is that important? Because racial gerrymandering is not permitted under the United States Constitution pursuant to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Now, what did I tell you when I was standing outside the church? We must do everything we can legally possible, prayer and everything else, to stop Clarence Thomas from getting rid of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, because they are currently considering that in this term of the United States Supreme Court, which started yesterday. He's been trying to get his conservative colleagues to go along with him, and they have pushed back now for 30 years. But he believes now, and I believe, that he may have the votes now to get rid of Section 2. But let's be praying. Let's be calling our senators. Let's be calling our House of Representative members. Let's be calling, D.C. and just really, really jamming up their phones to say, do not get rid of Section 2, because that at that point would basically essentially completely gut Section 2, the Voting Rights Act, because Section 2 is used primarily to fight racial gerrymandering. Now, political gerrymandering, the United States Supreme Court said that's okay, so long as it's not motivated by race. All right, political gerrymandering means that a legislature redrew maps to help their political party, to help the Republican Party, to help the Democratic Party, whichever party is in control. And that happens. Both parties do that. But racial gerrymandering, no, that should not be done. That violates Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And I would argue it violates also the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. All right? So that's why it's so important that this expert said that. Now, of course, when the defendants, that is the state of Texas, House Republicans here in Texas, when they put on their case, they're going to have an expert to completely disagree with the plaintiff's experts or expert. We know that. That's the way we practice law. All right, we get an expert, they get an expert, and then it becomes the battle of the experts. So it's just whoever the judges think expert is telling the truth and is backed by science. All right. So a 3-judge panel is hearing testimony this week in El Paso to determine whether Texas congressional maps were redrawn earlier this year with partisan politics or race in mind. If the panel rules that the maps are illegal, Texas's 2026 congressional election would be conducted under the old maps or interim maps drawn by the court. It is not clear whether the judges will issue a ruling before filing for the election closes December 8th. So the folks who are going to run in the primary this coming 2026, next year, they got to have filed by December 8th. And the question is whether or not they would have ruled by then to either keep this new map, the new maps, or to go back to maps that the judges will basically have drawn. All right, so Dutchin is a witness for the plaintiffs who are seeking an injunction to block the map before the candidate field is set. An injunction meaning, again, the Texas legislature drew the new maps, but the plaintiffs, the Democrats, are asking these judges to stop the implementation of the new maps. So that's what this is all about. Quote, I cannot look into their hearts and minds, close quote, Dutchin said about those who developed the maps. The evidence is consistent and highly suggestive that race was used. So he's saying, I don't know what's in their heart, but I know the fruit. I know the result. And the result, based on the evidence, says that they use race, which would be racial gerrymandering, which is unconstitutional. Courts have given lawmakers latitude in providing legislative and congressional boundaries that are gerrymandered. But for political purposes, racial gerrymandering could violate the U.S. Constitution and the Federal Voting Rights Act. Dutchin's testimony focused on North Texas. That's where we are here. District 33, currently represented by U.S. Mark Vesey, Democrat, Fort Worth. That's where I was at today. I was at a church in his district. If this new map stays afloat, then he's going to lose all of that territory over there. That's what this is about. All right. Was redrawn to exclude Tarrant County. So he would lose all of Tarrant County. His political base, which is his political base because he was raised in that district. He is known in that district. His kids go to school in that district. So that would be a huge loss for the district and for him and for Democrats and for the country. All right. That's why we got to pray and call and do everything we can legally to prevent this from happening. Dutchin said a white Democrat would likely win the primary in general election given the new boundaries. That would mean minority voters would lose clout. Vesey, who is black, has represented the district since its inception in 2013. Nearby District 32, represented by Democrat Julie Johnson, was redrawn as well. Instead of a mostly Dallas County district, it now extends into East Texas, adding rural voters that transform it into a Republican stronghold. So they also affected this white woman representative, Julie Johnson's district as well. Johnson has said she intends to run in District 33 next year. So she would run in the new District 33, where Mark Vesey is now the representative. And just like the expert said, it's widely believed Johnson, a white Democrat, would have a strong advantage over Vesey in a primary battle, but Johnson could have a tough time against Representative Jasmine Crockett, who represents nearby District 30, and its Democrats across demographics. Black voters from District 33 and other areas were consolidated into Crockett's district, which analysts say amounts to packing, okay? To packing. That's what they did. They packed Jasmine Crockett's district, District 30, with Mark Vesey's district, District 33. They packed it together. Two black congresspeople. What is the result of that? Is dilution of black voters because they're all packed together instead of being spread out so that their power could be influential in a larger area. Well, now it's all packed together. And this happened to two black congresspeople, which is, again, why the expert, one of the reasons why the expert is saying this was definitely race motivated, which makes it racial gerrymandering. Vesey and Crockett are still considering their 2026 options. quote, taken together, I would see that as a net loss, close quote. Dutchin said of how the map impacts the Dallas area. The plaintiffs were expected to rest their case Monday. Lawyers for the state would then have their turn. They are expected to call State Senator Phil King, Republican from Weatherford, as an early witness. King was chairman of the state's Redistricting Committee. So he was the one chairing this and running and making sure that Trump's desire that, Texas redistrict itself was in fact done. That was his job. So he's going to take the stand and testify. And of course, he's going to say that it was not race-based. That's what he's going to say. It's not race-based. That's what he's going to get up there and testify, and they're going to put their experts up. And it just depends on the judges. It just depends on the judges, 3 judges, to see if they're going to issue that injunction. Now, if they issue the injunction, then of course we know this case is ultimately going to end up in front of SCOTUS, regardless of who wins. The question is whether SCOTUS is going to accept the case. And of course, I believe they will. And given how they have been ruling for Trump over and over and over and over again with the emergency docket, one can expect that they will continue to rule with Trump with this case as well. And that's especially true if Clarence Thomas gets his way and convinces the rest of his conservative colleagues to get rid of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So let me remind you of this. When you post on social media, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, whether it is Instagram, whatever, use the hashtag Save Section 2. Save Section 2. Save Section 2. That can be the number 2 or TWO. Just save Section 2. All right? So let's win this thing. Let's win this thing. All right, so I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video. And remember, stay woke.